Imagine yourself walking through the quiet streets of an English town in the late 17th century, where the morning light filters gently through countless windows. Each pane of glass tells a story, not just of the families within, but of a remarkable system of taxation that would leave an indelible mark on the architectural landscape of England. It was in the year 1696, during the reign of King William III, that the window tax first came into being. Picture the royal court, with its measured discussions of fiscal policy, as advisors sought a new way to generate revenue for the crown. The concept was elegantly simple, yet revolutionary in its approach. Rather than attempting to assess the complex interiors of homes, why not tax what could be seen from the street? This new tax represented something quite extraordinary for its time. Unlike many levies that fell equally upon rich and poor, the window tax was designed as what we might now call a progressive tax. Those dwelling in modest cottages with fewer than 10 windows paid nothing at all, while grander homes with their numerous openings would contribute more substantially to the royal treasury. The initial structure was thoughtfully crafted. A house with 10 or more windows would incur a base charge of 2 shillings, with an additional 4 pence for each window beyond that first 10. It was a system that recognized the correlation between architectural grandeur and the owner's means to pay. Now, imagine the gentle bustle of preparation as this new system took shape across the counties of England. Local officials found themselves tasked with an unprecedented undertaking: the creation of comprehensive property records based entirely on external observations. The role of the tax assessor became central to this new administrative landscape. These appointed individuals, typically respected members of their local communities, would walk methodically through their assigned parishes, armed with quills, ink, and carefully prepared assessment rolls. Picture them moving at a measured pace through village streets and market towns, their eyes trained upward toward the facades of every dwelling. The work required both precision and diplomacy. An assessor might spend an entire morning examining a single grand manor, counting not just the obvious windows, but also considering the more ambiguous openings. Glass panels in doors, small windows in attics, even skylights visible from the ground. Each required careful evaluation and judgment. The definition of what constituted a taxable window became a matter of considerable importance. The law specified that any opening designed to admit light would qualify, regardless of its size or specific purpose. This seemingly straightforward criterion would prove to create fascinating complications as property owners began to explore the boundaries of architectural creativity. Consider the meticulous nature of the record-keeping that emerged from this system. Each assessor maintained detailed rolls, carefully noting not just the number of windows in each property, but often including descriptions of the buildings themselves, their locations, and sometimes even the names of their occupants. These documents, written in the careful script of the period, would become an invaluable historical resource. The administrative structure supporting the window tax was remarkably thorough. Parish officials maintained local copies of all assessments, while county authorities oversaw the broader coordination of collection efforts. Imagine the quiet industry of clerks' offices across England, where these records were copied, cross-referenced, and carefully preserved in leather-bound volumes. This system created what was perhaps England's most comprehensive property database of the era. Unlike previous taxes that might be based on rough estimates or self-reporting, the window tax demanded physical verification of every assessment. The resulting records provide us today with an extraordinary snapshot of English domestic architecture at the turn of the 18th century. As we delve deeper into these historical documents, we discover the human stories embedded within the administrative precision. Assessment rolls reveal not just the number of windows, but glimpses of social hierarchy, regional variations in building styles, and the gradual changes in architectural fashion over the decades. The impact on building practices was both immediate and lasting. Picture a property owner receiving notice of their assessment, perhaps standing in their garden and counting the windows of their own home for the first time, with such careful attention. Some accepted the levy as a reasonable contribution to the realm's finances, while others began to contemplate alternatives. The practice of window blocking emerged as a common response to the tax. Rather than paying the annual levy, many property owners chose to brick up some of their windows, reducing their liability while creating a distinctive architectural signature that remains visible across England today. Walking through historic districts, you can still observe these blocked openings, like gentle scars that tell the story of fiscal policy written in stone and mortar. The regional variations in how the tax was administered reveal fascinating insights into local governance of the period. In some counties, assessors were notably strict in their interpretations, counting every possible opening. Others took a more lenient approach, perhaps influenced by local customs or community relationships. These variations extended to collection practices as well. The tax relied on local constables and justices of the peace for enforcement, creating a system where community dynamics played a significant role in the ultimate success of revenue collection. Imagine the delicate negotiations that might occur when a respected community member fell behind in their payments. The evolution of tax rates over the decades reflects the changing financial needs of the Crown and the ongoing refinement of the system. By 1747, the rates had increased substantially, with houses containing 20 or more windows paying a full shilling per window, a significant sum that could influence major architectural decisions. These adjustments in taxation policy created corresponding changes in the assessment records. Officials had to regularly update their roles, noting not just new construction, but also the modifications existing property owners made in response to rate changes. The documents became a chronicle of architectural adaptation to fiscal policy. Enforcement of the window tax presented its own unique challenges. Unlike taxes on trade goods that could be collected at specific points, this levy required ongoing monitoring of every assessed property. Imagine the constable making his rounds, checking for newly constructed windows or recently blocked ones, ensuring that the records remained current and accurate. The penalties for non-payment could be quite severe. The law provided for the distress of goods, essentially seizing property to cover tax debts, and in extreme cases, imprisonment. However, the application of these penalties varied greatly depending on local circumstances and relationships within the community. The administrative costs of collecting the window tax were notably high, consuming perhaps 15 to 20% of the total revenue generated. This expense reflects the labor-intensive nature of the assessment and collection process, requiring regular surveys, dispute resolution, and detailed record maintenance. Yet despite these costs, the system persisted for over a century and a half, testament to its effectiveness as a revenue-generating mechanism. The window tax records that survive in archives today represent not just fiscal documentation, but a unique form of architectural and social history. Consider the broader implications of this taxation system. By linking fiscal responsibility to visible architectural features, the window tax created an unusual transparency in property assessment. Unlike interior-based evaluations that might be subject to concealment or manipulation, window counts could be verified by anyone walking past a building. This transparency had social implications as well. A home's tax liability became, in effect, publicly visible through its architectural features. The number and size of windows served as an external indicator of the owner's contribution to public finances, creating a form of civic display encoded in the very structure of buildings. The records generated by this system provide modern historians with unprecedented insights into domestic life of the period. Through careful analysis of assessment roles, researchers can track changes in household composition, economic status, and architectural preferences across different regions and social classes. As we near the end of our gentle exploration of window tax records, it's worth reflecting on the remarkable legacy of this administrative system. What began as a practical solution to revenue collection became an inadvertent chronicle of English domestic architecture and social organization. The meticulous record-keeping required by the window tax created archives that continue to serve researchers today. These documents offer insights not just into taxation policy, but into the daily lives of ordinary people, the evolution of building techniques, and the complex relationships between fiscal policy and architectural innovation. When the window tax was finally repealed in 1851, it left behind more than just the blocked windows that still punctuate English streetscapes. The comprehensive records created by generations of assessors represent a treasure trove of historical information, preserved in the quiet dignity of archive collections across the country. These records remind us that even the most mundane administrative processes can create lasting legacies. The careful work of tax assessors, walking methodically through their communities and recording what they observed, inadvertently created one of the most detailed portraits of English domestic architecture ever compiled. As you drift toward rest tonight, perhaps you might imagine those long-ago assessors moving quietly through their assigned parishes, their quills scratching softly across parchment as they documented the windows that let light into English homes. Their patient work created records that continue to illuminate our understanding of the past, like gentle beams of historical insight streaming through the windows of time.